Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Family Podcast for a full marathon review edition from the weekend away, and also a little chat about measuring progress and cereal, which is one of my favourite topics. Welcome, Dan.
Hello.
How's the body feeling?
Very good. I'm very surprised and happy.
Let's start there. We'll work back because in both instances of doing a marathon, the recovery, especially for you, has surprised me because you, precious little pedal that you are, tend to get a little bit sorer than me and take a little while to recover. Would you agree?
For resistance training, yes.
Yeah, and that is obviously the difference between the modes of training, like running whilst obviously repetitive and, I don't know how many thousands of steps you did on Sunday.
But let me look that up.
Yeah, it would have obviously been heaps with 42 kilometres of running in there, but it doesn't seem to make people as sore as working through a full range of motion with resistance in the same ways that muscles do. Like, we tend to just get joint sore, which is like hips, knees, ankles, bit achy, lower back maybe, but yeah, you've pulled up really well.
I have.
Went to the pool on Monday.
I did. I think what really helped actually straight afterwards, so immediately after, I was down.
Yeah.
For 10 to 20 minutes, I felt sick. I actually felt sick from about the 38 kilometre mark.
And it sort of like just started to get hot there as well, so...
Yeah.
Let's work... Okay, so you've pulled up well. That's great. Let's go back to the start. So obviously, lots of people have been kind of following your training along. We've touched on it in a few of the past, I think specifically the past month, we've spoken about how you've trained and the split you've done and the way we've kind of structured up your program to get you to the line. But how did you feel after the taper? So we left to get to Ngambie on Saturday, and that was after, how was your last week's training?
Yeah, okay. I was about to say, can we begin with the taper? Because I did find that difficult.
Yeah.
Reducing the load, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's more psychological than anything. It's like, am I doing enough? Am I going backwards? Because you feel so fit once you've kind of hit that peak week style of your program. And then when you have to take the brakes off and let your body recover, it can be a little bit psychological, just not wanting to go backwards or to undo your good work. But really what you're letting your body do is just kind of heal and refresh and get right to, just 100%, which is the goal.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way?
Yes. Yeah, so thank you, Ben. He's patting himself on the back as usual, guys. So obviously we coach this all the time. In terms of, I'm always telling people when they need to rein it back, you really need to rest, you need to recover. But it is very difficult to do that as an athlete ourselves. So I do find these experiences very, very useful for us in our roles as coaches.
Yeah, it's quite humbling.
It is. It really is. And I kind of started jotting a few things down that I thought I could potentially work on as a coach from this experience. It also helped that Bruno was doing it with me and I was kind of trying to coach him at the same time, which was also handy for myself. And there were different variables between the two of us. So the tapers looked a little bit different because he had a couple of niggles that he was trying to manage before race day.
Medical term is a dicky ankle.
So, it was really good, but I had to trust my coach, being you, and I did do what I was told.
Sort of.
I did.
Yeah.
The only thing
you didn't do was properly carb load.
I was about to say, the only thing
Yeah.
So I've been...
You didn't eat as much as I told you to eat.
Hang on a minute. You weren't coaching my nutrition through this journey. You just got involved in the last week.
That's a technicality.
Would you agree with that?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I do struggle, and I am first to admit, I am very rigid and consistent in how I do things. And it's generally reflecting how I feel. So if I know something makes me feel good, I will continue to do that. I struggle to deviate from that, and I know that that is a flaw of mine, Ben. So I did struggle changing the macro breakdown a little bit at the end and eating more. I actually found it really, really hard, and I'm a big eater. I found it really hard to eat what you were telling me to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would have. That would have been the only thing I changed. You were just like the night before. You know, we were going to a pub, and I said, "What's on the menu?" And you said pub food, and I'm like, "Well, didn't you look?"
Yeah, and I said I had.
Yeah, and I was like, well, "Why the hell are we going there if it's just going to be high salt stuff that's going to pull all the water out of your muscles?" And like it was just not ideal. It wouldn't have been what I recommended. I would have gone to like a pizza pasta place and have you order 2 bowls of pasta. But we live and we learn. Maybe you wouldn't have felt sick at 38 k's. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I was waiting
No, but it's like, of all the things that you did really well, you definitely nailed the running aspect and the weight aspect, and probably the bit that most surprised me, which shouldn't have, knowing you, was the recovery aspect as well with the swim. Like me personally, I would have binned those off and just not done that at all, just because I wouldn't have found it enjoyable. But that's my cross to bear. And then the carb loading aspect, like what did we have on Friday night? We had prawns and pasta, which that was good. And then on Saturday morning you didn't eat as much as you should have. And then at Saturday lunchtime you also didn't eat as much as you should have. And then at Saturday night you made up for it. What did you have? I think you had a parma, and did you have the rest of Harry's pasta?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that was like calorically good, but macronutrient wise maybe not the best based on just the amount of carbs compared to proteins and fats. That's all. But still, plenty of food over the course of the day to fuel you. And then on Sunday morning, I mean, you slept okay on Saturday night.
You know something I didn't do, and this
Yeah.
is, I forgot my banana.
What?
I forgot my banana. So I had 2 fruit buns in the morning. I was up very, very early, had a terrible night's sleep, which is usual for me for an event, but it was probably worse than usual. I was awake from 2:55
Yeah.
a.m. I got it out.
Did you say there was music next door or something like that? There was some music?
Yeah.
So we were just staying in a motel in Seymour, and I was in the double bed with the 2 little kids, and you were in the single bed in a room with William. We thought that would give you the best possible rest. And it would have given you the best possible rest, but it still wasn't a very good rest. But better than mine, obviously. Mine was honking. But so up at, I think you said, what did you say, like 2:55 or whatever, you woke up?
I woke up, yeah. I didn't actually get out of bed till just before 4.
Yeah, but I mean, it matters a little bit, but also just the adrenaline gets you going anyway.
It does,
It's not like you wake up, you can crash later, but you'll still be fine. So up did you have 2 fruit buns?
2 fruit buns.
But you had those before I got up. I think I got up and you were just having a coffee, and you'd already been to the toilet. Yeah, so the actual race morning prep went fine, didn't it?
Yeah.
But you didn't have a
Normally
banana.
I'd have a banana.
But you would
closer to
the actual start.
the actual start.
You had some snakes though, didn't you?
But I forgot my banana. I did have a couple of snakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Still easy to absorb, simple sugars. You want to wake up early enough, like before these big events. Obviously, you want as many carbs in your system as possible. And some people can feel a little bit uncomfortable, just sort of like sitting a little bit heavier in regards to, most people tend to feel better when they feel kind of empty in the stomach and light and just generally good. Whereas loading up before a big endurance event like this, it's a bit of a different feeling where you kind of want to just absorb as much glycogen as possible to then use throughout the event, just because it's easier on your body to break down. It requires less oxygen. So that is the goal, is to fill up your muscles, fill up your liver, and just have plenty of stocks, and then obviously use those as you go, in the hope that you don't cark it at about 30 to 35 Ks. So that was the goal, and it went pretty well over the course of the day. But obviously, without your magical banana, you missed that in the start. But you started running at, what, 6:30?
6:30 in the morning, yeah.
6:30, the gun went off. I had the kids, we got there at about 7. We were all ready to go in the morning. We had our yogurts on the way. We saw you at the 10K mark. the way the course worked, it was like it was a small loop of 10, and then you kind of did a big loop of 30 on the outside of the vineyard, which, by the way, and as it turns out, everyone I've asked, they're like, oh, have you heard of a Tabilk winery? They're all like, yeah, it's famous as. So I didn't know that, but obviously I'm not a wine connoisseur. But you started off the 10 really well, and then we saw you at the 10 mark, and then you went on your big loop, and we jumped in the car to try and drive around and catch you at spots, because it was going to be a long 3 hours just waiting at a winery. So it actually made the time go a lot faster. We saw you at the 20k mark, we gave you some snakes, and then we saw you not that long after at about 27 or 28.
Yeah.
And you still looked really good. Bruno was battling a little bit then, and I was like, it's a bit early to, like, it was a bit early in the race to kind of look as though it was that hard.
Yeah.
Whereas had I seen him at 35 like that, it would have been like, yeah, all good, just bite down on the mouth guard and you're nearly there, you know. So yeah, I was at that stage, I was like, oh, smashing it, time was on point, all good. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. We started out really strong, which was nice, but it's hard. You don't want to get too carried away too early.
Yeah.
So we had the 4-hour paces near us. So coming into this, we didn't have a pace goal. Bruno's goal was to complete a marathon.
Yeah.
And I said I would do it with him. That was our goal, to complete it.
So at the 10, you were with the paces. There was like a small group. And then when we saw you at the 20, you were about 400-500 meters ahead of them, I think. Yeah, you pulled away a little bit. You probably gave yourself a 3-minute spot there.
So we started really well, and then so the paces were running ahead of time. So to achieve a 4-hour marathon, you need to be at about 5:41, I think, per k.
Is it? Yeah.
And they were running a lot faster than that. But then at the drink stations, they were taking longer. So kind of stopping at the station.
Yeah, so like a faster travelling speed, but then enough time for the people to replenish if they needed to.
Yeah, so it's actually quite interesting. I'm not sure if it's just me that pays attention to these things or if other athletes would have taken note on the day. But they all had these poles, the paces. So they had their vests on with what time they were pacing for,
they were easy to spot.
the athletes. They were very easy to spot. They were amazing. And then they also had times of where they should be at what stage. So it was like a little table for them. So at this checkpoint, your time should be this.
Okay.
Because I guess, when you are kind of stopping, because they want to keep people with them on the journey, obviously.
Yeah.
But they also allow that most athletes do want to stop at the drink stations.
Yeah.
That's not how I personally run. That's not how Bruno has run because he's been running with me.
I think it depends on the level of runner as to how they treat an aid station and their time goal. Like, running is a rhythm sport to me. So like as soon as you lose your rhythm or you lose your stride, then you have to slow down and speed up. Like the energy it takes to get back to that cruising speed is not worth slowing down in my mind. Like you just want to switch your mind off and just go. So yeah, those aid stations, I share your feeling towards them. Like if I can't not break stride, grab one, maybe half of it goes on me and the other half in my mouth, then I'm not stopping.
Yeah. Of a similar view. That's how I feel better.
Yeah.
I have done runs where I've started with when running with other people many years ago, running at work. People used to stop at the drink stations, whereas I have figured that out.
Depends on your goal as well. Like if
that does not work for me.
Yeah, if you're breaking ground on a distance run and you've kind of planned out, okay, the aid stations are 4 kilometers apart and I'm just gonna break it down, have a drink, catch my breath and go again, then it's all about your race plan there for sure. I'm interested in the paces, obviously, because no course is 100% flat all the time, and having that idea of we need to be at this corner at this time because we know that this next bit's going to be a little bit undulating with the hills, or it's going to be a little bit more of an incline and we're going to slow down a little bit. I wonder how much they take that into consideration, because like the course to my eye looked pretty flat.
I loved it. It
was
was
pretty flat,
It
like
was.
those long sort of like, especially around the outside. And it depends what you like as a runner, but I like just a long, dead straight, like shut your mind off, like those old American movies where it's just like you can see the
Long
road
road,
until it
yeah.
hits the horizon. I'm like, hell yeah, that's me. Compared to the constant winding in and out, or like what's your footing of more of that like trail run style. And it looked like you had some really good periods of just dead flat, chew up the ground, 6Ks in the bank, done.
Yeah, it was really good. Well, I've just looked at my Strava now. The total elevation gain over the entire course was 307 meters. So,
You know what's embarrassing?
what?
I don't even know how they calculate that. Like, what does that even mean? When
What?
people are like, oh, 500, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a lot. This is like, and I'm admitting this on air, like we're live. I was like, oh, what's being gaslit? I was like, yeah, gaslighting, terrible. And now I'm just like, oh, what's up with this elevation? I have no idea what it is.
Elevation is obviously
Yeah,
the elevation.
up and down. But how do they calculate the 300 meters?
From flat, like when
Yeah.
it goes up,
Yeah,
the elevation goes up.
no, I understand.
When it goes down, then they calculate it over the entire...
So from 0 to 42, you've basically gone up 300 meters.
Yes.
That's interesting because you start and finish at the same spot. Someone listening to this has just driven off their road at how possibly dumb that is. But you know what, guys?
Well, that's how I've always understood it. I've never thought about it. Now you're making me doubt myself.
If someone out there knows how they calculate elevation, please message us. So, 26Ks.
Oh, hang on. Well,
Oh, you're
we're
going
going
back
we're going back to paces.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Carry on.
So we were with the 4-hour paces. When they started stopping at the stations, we kept our pace, and we found a nice little group of us. And this is one of my favorite things about running at events.
Course camaraderie.
You find your people, and boy, is it nice to learn people's stories like along the way. It was so good, like, because it's such a long time.
It is a long time.
Such a long time to, to be able to, like, we were running with a 23-year-old physio. She was a lovely girl from Bendigo. And a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah, what a weapon.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And then there was also an older gentleman just behind us that stayed with us pretty much the whole course as well.
Because the pace is so like sub-maximal as well, you're sort of looking for distractions.
Yeah.
You're looking for something to kind of take your mind off just the never-ending stride. Whereas if it was obviously more of a, like a high-paced effort, then it's like, I don't have the energy to listen to you, brother. But like at the moment, this is working. And there is very much that nice sort of like common goal across.
It's beautiful. I just think it's very rare that people are in that type of environment where, like, it's just 100% support.
Faster
like,
alone,
no one
further
wants
together.
anyone to fail.
Yeah.
It's pretty, it's pretty nice. And everyone's just so encouraging, and like just the little things you see along the course. I don't know, really, that was my favourite part for sure.
You feel that stuff more
I
than
do,
me, for sure,
You're just like, oh, whatever. Off you go. But like, when you see people stop and you can see they've got strapping, or, they're grabbing at their hamstring, or, just making sure they're okay, and like giving them the thumbs up. And
well, there's a level of respect that comes, like, it's a hard thing to do. Like, there's a reason why people go like marathons, because like everyone knows how hard it is to run 5K, let alone 42. So it's like there's just an instant level of, like just sort of camaraderie and respect for anyone out there on the course having a crack. And the level of training it takes to actually get to that point, and the level of, sacrifice that you have to make to your time and to, your life to basically allow yourself to get to the fitness required to be a decent chance at actually completing it.
Yeah.
It's hard yakka.
So we were running better than pace.
Yep.
Up to 30K.
Yep. Which is not uncommon for race days compared to what you've practiced, based on that adrenaline and the vibe and, the energy, but also just kind of making sure that you don't get too carried away.
Yeah.
Like I remember when we ran the half marathon together at Run Melbourne when I was pacing you there, and I was like, our pace felt really easy and it was way faster than we wanted to run. But my heart rate was through the roof and I'm like, we're going to cark it. Because we hadn't run properly since the marathon. And it was an interesting learning experience there for just how much like the vibe and the excitement of the day can kind of carry you through.
That was incredible. I can't believe we ran that.
Yeah. A story for a different podcast. But so up to 30Ks, you're on track. And I was like, oh, they're smashing it. I was looking at your Strava, which the service there was god awful. Like it was hard to get a hold of you because at one stage, you know, like if anyone's used a tracking app before, you can see like a blue dot and then it moves and then it would stop and then it'd be a kilometer ahead. So it was hard to keep an idea. But after we saw you at 26, we went back to the winery and had to park and get back towards the finish lines because earlier in the morning we had an easy park because they hadn't had the half marathon 10K or 5K yet. And then once all the spectators were in and all the people doing the shorter distances got there, it certainly got a little bit harder to, you know, like you get the right spot and everything. And it was also starting to get a bit hot. And we're out and around and the dust was insane and the flies were doing their head in. But then we head back to the winery and I was looking at your Strava and I could see you were slowing down a little bit. And then you sort of got to that 36K part and I was like, I think they've stopped. Like it just sort of got, you know, and then when hearing what happened, which you'll detail in a minute, like that's when it just started to get seriously hard, which is what everyone says about a marathon or a long distance event. It's like the race starts at 30. You know, you're basically just killing time.
Yeah.
Until you get to that point and eventually it's just like, oh, like this is what they say when it's like this bit's brutal.
Yeah, I think I did actually say that to Bruno at one stage. So when you saw us, Bruno had just started to slow down a bit and I was glad we saw you when we did because it's so uplifting. Oh,
massively, yeah.
Having that support, like if I compare that to the Great Ocean Road where you do not see anyone.
It was like soul searching, wasn't it?
Oh boy.
It was like an ayahuasca trip where it's like we're going to do mushrooms and come out different
like
people.
Just knowing you guys, the kids were so gorgeous. Like with the lollies, Bruno's son made a sign. It was just so nice and I could see it was lifting him as well. So I was hoping that would get him a few extra kilometres of pace just because he was fading a little bit sooner than I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought
on
too.
Race day. So,
probably based on how you're training
it probably was about 26.
It was.
Whereas I was expecting him to kind of be like that at maybe 32.
Yeah.
So the course was still reasonably easy when we were fading. So from 26, it was still reasonably flat.
It was, yeah.
And
that
it was
on the
kind
main
of
roads.
going down, actually. And we were losing time, declining. So I was just trying to, stay with me. Yeah. I was running ahead from about the 26K mark, just trying to keep him to catch up to me.
Yeah.
He didn't want the 4, but I would have liked to have got him the 4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll tell people what your time was in a minute. It was actually hilarious.
So he did stick with me until 36. He said, "You don't understand how I'm feeling. You need to let me."
I've been a bit of a guess. I feel like I think you're feeling pretty knackered. Actually,
he did really well. Like just
Yeah.
Trying to keep me in sight, and we lost ear range with our headphones a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I
like
knew,
what we
I
were
knew
talking
he was
about
in struggle town.
Before, when someone drops off their pace or speeds up their pace dramatically at that stage, it is really hard to kind of keep adjusting your pace. Like you just want to shut your brain off and just stride compared to drop back or speed up. Like it just takes so much energy. At that time, it's just like, oh, please just get me to the finish line. Like I've been running for 3.5 hours and I've had an absolute gut full of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stop starting and the turning your head and the twisting your body and the where is everyone, it's brutal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, significantly harder than it is at the 5-6K mark.
So, and our pace just dropped right off.
Yeah.
At 35, the 35 kilometre mark, we ran a 6:28. And that's when Bruno said, you have to leave me.
Yeah.
So I gave him their headphone because he was trying to give them to me. And I said, no, you have it because you need it. Like sometimes when you're running, you just need to regroup. and the music does help. So I wanted him
It can also be a distraction
to
too.
finish.
Yeah. He seemed to have a little chat to himself.
However that looked for him, he could turn them off, but he had the option. So we departed at 36. I kept running, and then Bruno said he walked for a little bit. Like, he could still obviously see me in front of him. He walked for a little bit, not long at all, and then he said, "Nah, like, that's it. I'm going."
It was time for a bit of a gut check.
Yeah. So he credit to him.
Bloody oath.
Yeah, that's like, it's very hard to explain to people just how you feel at that point.
Yeah, complete and utter dog shit is how you feel. Like, awful.
Yeah, awful. There's a reason why
everything hurts.
Why the stats look the way they do, and why not many people run marathons.
Yeah,
it is hard.
Bloody hard.
And your brain is telling you to stop.
Yeah, pretty much every stride after 30.
So, and from that point, I'm quite an emotional person. And
I was... Too emotional. This is the part of the story where we would have chosen different paths.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I just hope he can gather himself and get to the finish line, because that's what the journey's been about. So I did keep running, and then I started seeing people that I could see their journeys weren't going to plan either, which I also find that upsetting. There was
again the differences between us.
Yeah. So again, just checking on a few people between 36 and 38. That was heartbreaking. Like, this one girl was crying.
Yeah.
And she was basically, her stride, she was doing like, she was a very fit, young looking lady. And yeah, she was crying. Her stride, she was basically like doing these little skips. And I was just like,
hurt herself.
Oh man, you're not like, you're going to finish and be in a really bad way, or I don't know what I would have done if I was her. Just the way she was moving.
Just keep going. You can't make it worse.
So I checked on her. She's like, yeah, all good. Then at 38, I had a fair bit to drink. I had 2 lots of electrolytes. So 2 cups.
Also, it's also worth pointing out that it was starting to get hot at that stage too. Like, the sun was, not covered by any clouds. What time would it have been? Like, you start, like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And, this is a city slicker talking. That country heat hits different.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, it was baking hot. And especially because we're not used to, like, you've done all of your training through winter.
Yep.
And then early spring, which is still, like, it's not hot here. And then you cop that on the day. Like, you hadn't run in that temperature the whole time.
No.
No wonder you felt sick.
No. So, and I spilt the drink, whatever, on my phone, and my Strava
carked it. Yeah.
So
I think that was when I thought you'd stopped, because I was looking at the blue dot and I'm like, they've stopped. And I thought maybe Bruno's ankle was no good, or, you've fallen over on a dirt track, which has happened before. And then I was like, what's happened? I hope they're all right. But then I could hear you starting to move again. So, that was about, 38, 39?
Yeah, so from 38 to the end was a nightmare. I was running blind, so I couldn't see my time at all.
Yeah.
I knew I had time up my sleeve because the 4-hour pacers saw me.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Where's your mate?" They had a bit of a chat to me.
Yeah.
They're like, "You're still fine. Like, you're right to make 4." I'm like, sweet.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I did an update on our Instagram. I'm like, as long as they hold this pace, they're home. Yeah. Just got to not slow down. And slow down you did.
And from that point I felt horrible, but Bruno came up and that lifted me. I was so lucky that he came at that point, because then we ran together to the end, and it was a nice finish.
The end bit was like also
the hardest.
Yeah, it was the worst because that
was the most elevation we had.
Yeah, because you come off the dead flat roads. Like, you had that period where you've gone, like 10k straight basically on these roads, and then you turn off into the winery, and then it's a little bit more up and down through the vineyards. And I think they're like, scenic finish, and it's like, at that stage you don't give a shit. You're like, horrible. Just get me to the line.
And it was rocky, so, and the gravel, and cars were loose. Coming and leaving the event.
Dust. Yeah, the dust was hard.
And when you're running,
you're like choking on the dust.
On the dust. Yeah.
And it didn't matter how slow they were going as well. Like everyone was, in the cars, everyone was uber considerate of the runners, but it was still just like, it's just hot, dry heat and nothing's keeping the dust down. So yeah, that last 3K definitely looked the hardest of, even walking back to the car, walking back along the path, I was like, oh, I want to finish now.
Yeah.
And some people were trickling into the finish line, but yeah, you came through the vineyard, hit the top, ran over the line with the kids.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Harry nearly knocked me over before finishing.
Harry nearly got trucked, which is basically a shirt front. He just ran straight into you to give you a cuddle, but he didn't realise that you weren't going to stop. Knocked your phone out of your hands, nearly knocked him over.
Oh, it was so funny. William was fantastic. He goes, "Don't worry, Mum, I'll get your phone."
Yeah, it was. I was like, he's going to stop. Boom, straight in.
So no, Harry straight into my leg. Then I stopped because Bruno had stopped.
Yeah, the goose ran off before the finish line. So he finished his race about 40 metres from where the finish line was. Like, I don't know if he was delirious at this stage. I'm like, what are you doing? And then he sort of ran back out to finish and cross the line.
Yeah, so then I was just following Bruno because by the end you're out of it.
It's like, I'm done.
And then we all ran through together, which was nice. So Bruno with his son and me with William, Mia and Harry, and it was really beautiful. And my chip time is, drum roll, 4.
Yeah.
0 0 4 1.
Wait, so you were 40? Oh, so you were 4 hours and 41 milliseconds. That's brutal. I thought it was 4:01, but that was your Strava, wasn't it?
That's the gun time.
So you were wait, what's the gun? Oh,
gun
the
time.
Gun time is when they start versus when you cross the finish line.
Correct.
So you were 41 milliseconds over 4 hours.
I was.
What a failure. So if Harry hadn't have headbutted you with 200 metres to 100 metres to go, you would have crossed over just under 4 happy days.
Look, there were a lot of things that happened along the way. Bruno mentioned at this one drink station we waited for the volunteer to top up the water. He's like, it was his fault.
Yeah.
There were just a whole lot of little things where we could have made up.
Isn't it crazy? 4 hours goes past and you're worried about 0.41 of a second.
So no, it was an absolute success.
A headbutt. Had you headbutted over the line, had you breasted the line like a sprinter, you would have got in under 4 hours. But that's pretty funny, isn't it?
It is a little bit.
I have to pony up and do another one.
I know. I've said that because that will just do my head in forever. I need to be sub 4.
I would ask them listen, can you just change this? So 4 hours 0.41. I didn't know it was that close. I had the 4:01 in my mind, which we only found out half an hour after the race by the time you checked in, because you did feel sick, and I think that was the heat and just not being used to it, and just all of it. It's just a hard physical experience, which is why completing them is so special, obviously, because it's not just about the day. It's not just rocking up and having a crack. It's the 3 to 4 months prior. For some people more than that if they're starting from a lower level of, running fitness that it takes to get to the start line injury free. And not only that, to then get through it. Yeah, it's hard.
I was about to say, it's everything that I wanted and more. The entire journey, from the start all the way to the recovery. I cannot believe I did not have a niggle.
Yeah.
To this day, I'm just blown away.
Master programming.
The recovery side. So when we finished, as I said, I felt sick for 10 to 20 minutes, but then I was okay. I got up.
Yeah.
How far did we have to walk to the car?
Oh, too far. It felt
the kids
forever.
were struggling more than me for the walk to the car.
Yeah. Obviously, the self-awareness in the was lacking. I'd be so.
That was
I'm
quite
so tired.
funny.
I'm like, shut up.
It was funny actually. All the kids going up the stairs last night to go to bed were whinging about sore legs, and I was just having a little bit of a giggle to myself.
Whatever.
I thought that's too cute.
In their own little worlds.
They are, but obviously as soon as we got back to the motel, the kids wanted to go in the pool, and that was probably the best thing I did. The pool was really cold.
Yeah.
At our motel.
Surprisingly warm as well, but it's just what we're used to. We were trying to guess how warm the pool was, and I said 16, and William said 17 and it was like 23 or something like that. And we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But it felt freezing when we got in. I was like, whew. And yeah.
So, yeah, straight in the pool with the kids, which was good because Ben needed a break, guys. He had a very big day.
Man, I was knackered. Yeah, that's worth a whole nother podcast.
He was
trying
exhausted.
To
I could just see him. He needed 10 minutes to himself. So he went off to the supermarket.
I cracked the shits.
And I was in the pool with the kids for maybe good... I was in the
minutes,
water for probably about half hour, I think, which would have helped. And then went to bed early that night. Ben fell asleep on the couch prior to bedtime, guys.
Yeah,
again, very
Mario.
big day.
Yeah. I always fall asleep at that time though. Like 6 o'clock after dinner, if we're on the couch, I'm gone. And then I fell asleep watching Ninja Turtles with William as well, and he's like, "Oh, you missed." Like I basically missed the twist. I had no idea what was going on, but I could piece it together. It was Ninja Turtles, you know.
Again, with the nutrition, couldn't do what Ben was trying to ask me to do. He was trying to... I was feeling horrific and he was trying to get me to eat snakes. I'm like, Ben, you don't understand. I can't... Like, if I try and bite this snake, I'm going to vomit.
You are a baby with that stuff, though.
I can't... Like, the thought of eating a snake at the best of times is not appealing to me.
Just suck it
So
up.
when I want to vomit, trying to eat a snake is not...
Well, you didn't want a Gatorade either, yeah.
I was really struggling there. But once... And I was not hungry at all. I didn't have anything to eat.
Which is not uncommon. Like, you get to the end of these events and people think that because of the high exertion you'd be starving, but your body's so inflamed, you know, and your cortisol's through the roof that it's, you know, it's an appetite suppressant. So whilst you should have some stuff just to kind of kickstart that recovery process and try and, you know, bring your cortisol down by, you know, like just basically increasing your blood sugars and your level of insulin in your system, it's, you know, it's not always what you feel like doing, but it also doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter if it takes you a week to recover or 3 days, because it's not like, you know, it's not like you're a professional sports person and you need to play again next weekend. So, you know, you basically just have to do whatever you feel like, because ultimately, you know, we don't need you throwing up on the grass. So if it takes a little while to have some snakes, then it's fine.
I am good at trusting how I feel in situations. So you went to the supermarket, you came home with rolls and some meat. So maybe a fair few hours afterwards.
Yeah, we just had a little bit of deli meat, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably 2 hours after you were maybe even later, to be honest. Like maybe 2 o'clock, and you'd finished at about 10:30, 11. So yeah, it would have been 3 or 4 hours after. And it was literally just a white roll with a bit of deli meat, and then we had a barbecue for dinner, and you had a couple of sandwiches. They were fantastic, by the way.
Well, it was very yummy dinner. Thanks for that.
And then I went and got you some ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then fell asleep.
Then, and again, I tried, like I knew I'd had minimal sleep, run a marathon, hadn't had too much to eat. So going to bed early was key for me. I was in bed reasonably early, and I knew the kids would have me up early. So once again, guys, Ben had a sleep in on the Monday morning while I was up.
It's a big day for me. I want to make it absolutely.
I just want people to picture this.
Yeah.
Ben had a sleep in. He was actually last out of bed for the entire household on the Monday morning. I am glad that we got the extra accommodation. Yeah. Which was good. We learnt that lesson last time. We travelled home
on the Sunday, on the day of the run.
Day of the run, and that was hard.
Yeah.
That was very, very hard. Whereas
bit of Red Rooster on the way, we felt garbage.
Yeah, the extra night was just so much better. We had like a base where everyone could come back and shower and refresh.
It was a lot more relaxing, and it made the morning a lot easier as well compared to having to pack up in the morning and get everyone in the car. Like, especially with the kids, they're no help. So it's like, you know, it's not I have to do it. Guys, it was really hard for me.
Yeah. To bed early, and then movement for me is really important. So first thing on Monday morning, we walked to the main town, which is maybe a K away.
Yeah, if that.
And had breakfast. Had breakfast out, and then walked back, and the kids went to the park. And
we got home at lunchtime. We went to the pool in the Arvo, and we just sort of chilled out since then. And it's been pretty smooth.
Yeah, but apart from a slightly tight right hip, I felt really good.
Excellent.
Really, really good. Compared to last time, William had to help me physically back to the car at the end of the last marathon.
Yeah.
And I could barely get into the car.
Yeah, we were
that
so
night.
screwed, yeah.
I was just so sore.
Yeah.
And I took anti-inflammatories after the last one and woke up fine.
Little miracle drugs.
That was a miracle. And
yeah.
Ben was trying to get me to take the anti-inflammatories this time. But I said, no, I actually think I feel okay. And I didn't take anything and I was fine.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah, the recovery piece has been really nice. Went for a swim. No, I didn't actually swim, sorry. I went to the pool. I didn't swim. I just went into the spa and the steam room.
Yeah, got amongst the old boys in the steam room and then come home, didn't you?
And, yeah, it was, I don't know. I feel really good. I did an upper body session in the gym yesterday.
Yeah.
And I feel like today I'm pretty much back to normal.
You are back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just a really nice weekend.
It was. The whole experience.
And you just start
really
planning
good.
your next one so you can get under 4 hours. 0.41. Brutal. All right, moving on. We had a listener question. A listener question about cereal, which, I mean, I've been outspoken about cereal in the past.
We're quite passionate about cereal.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a cereal aisle in the supermarkets, in my
What do you
opinion.
feed your kids cereal-wise? ? I don't want to buy my daughter rubbish. What do you suggest? I mean, cereal is one of those things where it's sort of like, and I'm using air quotations, it's like fake healthy in a way where it's marketed as a health food, but it's not really. But if if you're trying to kind of transition away or you want to increase the quality of, because I understand that it's hard to get, it's hard to go from Special K to eggs. Like, that's a big step. But just something simple like...
Hang on, can I just touch on that?
Yeah.
Your comment on it's hard to go from Special K to eggs.
I'm speaking more about kids here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for some people that is really hard.
Yeah.
I actually went back to this individual and said, what does your daughter like? Does she like eggs? And she replied, she loves eggs.
There you go.
So never assume, and this also happened with Bruno actually, when he started his journey nutrition-wise, he was seeing a dietitian. And because he ate cereal, she suggested a better cereal option. And I said, do you like eggs? And he's like, I do like eggs. Yeah. So just asking those questions is really important. Yeah, if you're looking to directly replace a cereal with a cereal, that is different.
Yeah.
But who said you have to replace cereal with a cereal? No one.
No one.
So finding out what your kids like, making them part of the process is really important. I don't want people to think that we don't have the same challenges they do. Mia is our best eater.
Yeah.
Eats so many whole foods. Loves food. Never has to be reminded to eat. But she has the constant peer pressure of purchasing food at the canteen.
You've hijacked the question. Now you want to talk... Wait.
No. I'm trying to explain the pressures here.
Okay.
So, like, as a parent, like, we all face these challenges, but how we deal with them and what we can suggest to our kids is really important. So, obviously we know who this client is and how old her daughter is. Educating our kids is really important, and we make that part of the process. So when I say to Mia, no, you can't have canteen money, and this is why. And this is the food I've packed in your lunchbox, and this is why. So having those conversations with your daughter about, I don't want to buy you cereal, and not just I don't want to buy you cereal because it's bad. That's not educating. So going that one step further, I don't want to buy you cereal because I want to support your health better. I want you to be more full. So you've got energy to do everything it is that you can do during the day at school. They're the kind of conversations I'd be having with my child.
It's a little bit more depth rather than just this is good, this is bad, which we obviously speak to adults about as well. But yeah, I mean, explaining a little bit behind it, and now our kids, like when Harry will be eating his dinner and he's, I don't want to eat this, and then Mia will pipe up with, Harry, you have to eat your protein, just from the other side of the table. But and that's for adults as well, is we quickly lose motivation with stuff like that when we start to question why we're doing it in the first place. And if we don't know why we're doing it in the first place, then it's like, oh, well, I don't know anything about nutrition. Why am I doing this anyway? Or I don't even know why I'm doing it. This is stupid. Because you're looking for maybe a reason to, change tacks or look for something new, or, just sort of second guess the changes that you're making. You need that education behind what it is you're actually doing, which is why education is at the root of all of our programs, really, is to like, this is why we're doing it. Here's how it looks. And then here's how it might look for you based on your lifestyle, food preferences, your goals, whatever.
Exactly. So just having that preference.
Key. And the same applies with the kids, obviously.
Yeah. So like some suggestions.
We don't have a healthy cereal suggestion. The closest thing I could compare to a cereal that I would commonly suggest to someone would be oats.
Make your own granola.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be just plain oats, like as in porridge. You can get like mueslis at like very clean ones that just have a bit of dry fruit in them.
Yeah.
And oats. Like a bit of coconut flakes. And some kids, like our kids, love it because when they see your dad, and occasionally he'll have a muesli or a granola. They're like little birds. They're over there.
He has to share.
Poor Bernie has to have about 4 breakfasts to feed everyone at the same time.
But do you think outside the cereal box?
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I think sometimes we're a little bit closed-minded with what's a good breakfast food, and it's like, well, like literally the same as you could have for dinner. Like we've had some. She's nodding her head like I was about to make that point.
Can you like throw it to me, Ben? What are some suggestions? So we just said eggs, which is a great one. Oats, and remembering oats are very versatile. So you can make your own granola. They could have hot porridge. When they do have hot porridge, our kids, I throw in a little bit of protein powder in there.
Yeah.
Just a little sneaky one.
Even just what you pair the oats with, like are you pairing it with Greek yogurt or a higher protein yogurt, or like just there's a lot you can do around the ratios of the bowl to kind of impact the way our body treats the meal and how we digest the meal. You don't necessarily have to just have oats as the main ingredient. You might kind of sprinkle the oats on top of the yogurt.
Yeah, exactly. We've got fruits with nuts, seeds, and yogurt. That's a great one for kids.
Easy.
Like, and there are so many nutrients. Like, if we go down the micronutrient, like just so good for kids. If you're trying to get vitamins and minerals into them, nuts and seeds, very good. So we're blessed that is actually one thing Harry. Yeah. We can get a lot of that type of stuff into him. Day.
Even the way you, like, if your kid's a sweet tooth and you think that it might be a little bit hard going from a more sugary cereal straight to oats, which can be pretty bland, like a little bit of cinnamon on it or a drizzle of honey, just as like a little bit of a stepping stone, you already know it's a much higher quality plate than maybe what they were having before. And there's a lesson in that is you don't need to go from 0 to 100 straight away. Like you can kind of use a bit of like that stepping stone along the way of maybe a tablespoon or 2 of honey and then maybe 1, and like as their palate changes, which it does 100%. Then you don't need as much kind of stimulation to get them to have the meal. You can just sort of back that to a level that you might be more comfortable with.
Yeah.
The same way that you'd make changes with your own health, you don't need to go all or nothing.
Yeah.
You might alternate the days, like it might be a weekend thing, and just sort of slowly move towards an option that you're happier with.
Yeah. I know 2 really big favourites in our house are pancakes. So Mia had them every day, I think, for about the last 3 months. It's one banana, 1 banana, 2 eggs, and you just blend it,
cook it. They're actually quite nice, like of all the...
So that hits their protein.
Great school lunchbox one as well.
I was about to say occasionally she'll have them for lunch as well. So and smoothies. So the kids love using the blender.
Oh God.
Again, making them part of that process.
Yeah.
is just so, so, so important.
Yeah, it gives them ownership over what's on the plate compared to just being ordered around. You know, like what vegetable would you like? What piece of fruit would you like in your smoothie? What this, what that? Much more likely to have it if they choose it.
They love it. Like, Harry will ask for smoothies now. He doesn't eat fruit, and he had a whole banana in a smoothie the other day. Yeah,
he'll never peel a banana.
He would never ever eat a banana.
Yeah.
But he knows the banana's in the smoothie and will eat the smoothie. He will blend it. He will happily blend it.
Yeah, it's the novelty of, isn't it?
Yeah, so do think outside the box. And also, one thing that I think is worth mentioning that not many people do or adopt in Australia or anywhere in Australia, is people have like a type of food for breakfast in their head. Mia, I love, like when we were away, she's like, for breakfast, oh mum, I'll have cucumber and cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't have that kind of...
Yeah, we were doing that in COVID a lot, and people would be like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm just having roast lamb and veggies for breakfast.
Yeah, if your kids want what you had for dinner last night, give them that's great.
Especially when in most people's household, our dinners tend to be the most, the meal that we've put the most time and effort into. You know, it's the meal that we might eat all together. It's the meal that we've kind of planned out at the start of the week, especially if you're more health conscious. It's probably going to have a really good source of protein and some kind of vegetable in it. Why wouldn't you expand that out into breakfast and lunch?
Yeah.
You know, again, just options. Like, find what works for you, but everything's on the table.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's helped with the kids piece. One thing I do like with our coaching a lot in the nutrition world, we often do end up talking about the kids and behaviours and things you can adopt, just because you simply don't think of them. And I really like those conversations, and I get a lot out of them, and I hope you guys too, because we have had really good feedback in the family space in terms of changes you can make that really do improve the quality of nutrition for the entire family, not just the individual.
Yeah, and everyone's experience is so different, but it's about how to try and get those health principles through every different household, which is the interesting part for us as coaches, because otherwise we could just hand out a PDF. Just just do this, and this, and you'll be fine. And there's those principles that we know, across every household, people need to be doing X, Y, Z. But it's then, how does it look in this household with this time constraint versus this household with one kid versus this household with 5 versus, it's the application of, which is the interesting part.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
All right, we might wrap it up there.
Goodness, long one. Sorry about that, guys.
You were very self-indulgent today, talking about how much of a legend you are for running a bit. Like, Jesus. All right. Catch you next week.
Bye, guys.